Prime Minister Theresa May leaves 10 Downing Street as Brexit talks continue. Getty Images. Nigel Morris. 6 hours Monday, November 5, 2018. Theresa May will warn Brexiteer ministers on Tuesday that time is running out to clinch agreement with Brussels or face a no-deal departure from the European Union. Hopes that a deal could be struck as early as next week have faded because of the continuing clash between London and Brussels over the future status of the Irish border. Playing down reports that she is close to a deal with the EU, Mrs May will tell ministers that the key sticking point remains how to avoid a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic after Brexit. The two sides are still wrangling over the form of a backstop plan to prevent that outcome. Britain remains optimistic that agreement can be reached at an EU summit at the end of the month, but has ruled out a breakthrough within the next week. "We are still some way off on the backstop," said one source. "It doesn't feel like it is imminent." No deal preparations. Mrs May's warning to the cabinet will be seen as a plea to pro-leave ministers to give any deal a fair wind even if it involves further compromises. The meeting will also be updated by Dominic Raab, the Brexit secretary, on the latest preparations for a no-deal withdrawal from the bloc. Brexit Minister Dominic Raab has been visiting Northern Ireland. Photo Getty. The government is close to the point where it could formally advise companies to draw up contingency plans for that scenario. One practical problem it would face would be a shortage of permits for European lorries to be driven on British roads, leading to hold-ups at major ports. Irish border. Mrs May failed to resolve the impasse over the Irish border in a phone call with the Irish Taoiseach Leo Varadkar. She has insisted that any backstop agreement would have to include a mechanism to bring an end to the backstop. Theresa May is warning ministers. Getty Images. Mr Varadkar told her that the EU would never accept an arrangement that allowed Britain unilaterally to pull the plug on the backstop. His line was echoed by the EU's deputy chief negotiator, Sabine Weyand. Earlier he dismissed a reported suggestion by Mr Raab that the UK should have the right to pull out of the backstop at just 3 months' notice. He said such a time limit on the backstop isn't worth the paper it's written on. Boris Johnson intervention. Downing Street has dismissed a report that Mrs May is edging towards a complex agreement with Brussels which would allow the creation of a whole UK customs union to avoid the imposition of a hard border. Meanwhile, she was said to be on course to approve an economic partnership with the European Union which could develop into a Canada-style free trade arrangement. Boris Johnson, the former Foreign Secretary, denounced an agreement along those lines as an absolute stinker, and urged cabinet ministers to reject it. Writing in The Sun, Mr Johnson said such a format would be a Christmas present of the finest old Brussels fudge, meaning Britain getting absolutely nothing in return for an absolutely amazing £39 billion divorce payment. He argued that Britain would effectively become a non-voting member of the EU, having to accept laws made in Brussels with no power to influence them. Such an arrangement would be a national humiliation, reducing Britain to the status of a colony, Mr Johnson argued. More Brexit.